Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is George Zeng. I am the Chief Product Officer for Near and the General Manager for Near AI.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit about the products that you guys are building with AI.
Yeah. So Near believes deeply in the importance of both decentralized as well as user-owned AI.
Yes.
So we're building products enabling people to essentially maintain privacy of their chats through whatever AI products that they interact with. Let's say chat or through developer-facing products. And then we also believe that people should be able to use and take their data with them across different applications. So we're building a whole set of products to support that as well.
I think that this is a really important piece of the product stack in AI because so many applications, as this technology diffuses through the economy, will need some level of privacy or anonymity associated with it. Banking, healthcare, so many different fields. So can you talk about some of your clients today, not in the specific, but in the aggregate?
Yeah.
And tell us some of the use cases.
Yeah, I think a lot about, if you remember back to, there are two sort of analogies I think about. One is if you remember the original founding mission of Google, don't be evil. I think it's much more interesting if you're in a world where you have hardware enforced can't be evil. Right. And I always believe there's a place in the world for centralized products like a Google or an OpenAI or an Anthropic. I have many friends at these companies. At the same time, I believe there's a place for products that enforce the inability to actually peek into the questions and queries that people have, enforced not only at the software level, but also at the hardware level. So a lot of the products that Near ends up building are confidential inference type products within TEEs. We are actually neither Near nor any other person using these set of products are able to see the kind of queries and questions that are being asked. There's something else here that you're bringing up as well, which is very near and dear to my heart. I think back to the early days of the web when you had TCP/IP and you had email and you had all of these open protocols.
Yeah.
Right. There was a point in time where the internet could have gone in a very different direction. I don't know if you remember like early days of like AOL, basically controlling the end-to-end user experience on the internet.
Someone mailed me those CDs. I'm officially UNC status enough that I remember AOL CDs.
I remember those CDs as well, right? They made really good cup holders as well.
They did.
But the world would have gone in a different direction if it ended up being like a centralized walled garden sort of internet versus this wild and free and beautiful internet that we have today. So I believe that decentralized AI is important. I believe that privacy and confidentiality in AI is important. And I believe that even though there's a place for centralized products like Google or Facebook or OpenAI or Anthropic, there's a really interesting place for developers as well as people to use decentralized and privacy-first products as well.
Absolutely. Can you talk a little bit about the way that you have engaged with this at a technical level? What some of the hurdles have been to get these products working, and the way that you've worked with the greater developer ecosystem to encourage people to build on what you have created?
Yeah, a little bit about my history. So I previously worked at Meta and Facebook, which is why privacy is something that I've thought about for many, many years. Delicately put. And I've seen firsthand the power of being able to harness developer ecosystems for building products. So, Facebook makes a lot of money through ads. There's one point in time where the amount of ad revenue coming in through third-party applications built on top of Facebook's ads API was very, very significant, to the point where Facebook actually worried about that it was too significant. But the amount of creativity that I saw developers being able to harness through building on top of a set of great APIs was like very, very interesting and very, very powerful. It made a very deep impression on me. So for our sets of products right now, we're both building products that serve customers like end users, consumers, and enterprises, as well as building products that serve developers. Those set of products end up being, call it, confidential inference API type products. And that's basically being able to do inference within TEEs provided as an API right now. And then in the future, a lot of what we're looking at is overcoming engineering work and technical hurdles around enabling fine-tuning, training, as well as things like private memory for people to be able to port, call it memory between different applications, right?
This is something that I've spoken to the folks at Letta about before, the dream of being able to bring your memory with you wherever you go. And I think it's a very compelling vision for the future of AI, but it's going to be a big struggle because these individual frontier model companies with running closed labs, for better or for worse, have walled off the ecosystem. So what is the incentives you can offer somebody to share that data?
I think that if you build this in the right way, the power is that you're able to leverage profiles and history and preferences that people have had across many different applications and utilize some of those within your applications as well. Of course, shared in a privacy-centric, privacy-sensitive way, right? And I think the sum is greater than the parts in that kind of scenario, right? Yes, you could be in a situation where you contribute to a user profile, but at the same time, you're able to actually utilize information and usage behavior of that person across many other different applications as well, right? I think that hopefully will be the hook that gets people very interested.
You guys have very famously one of your co-founders as being a co-author of Attention is All You Need. Can you tell me a little bit of the experience of working with one of the OG legends of AI?
Oh, Ilya is wonderful. It's super interesting because sometimes working with Ilya and going to conferences or events like with them, I think the experience is kind of similar to what it's like being friends with a rock star to a certain extent. Like, I've been in situations where people go up to Ilya and ask for his autograph, and I'm like, I don't know any famous musicians or actors or like other people who would give autographs on a regular basis, but I guess this is like the academic version of that. So it's been really wonderful just to be able to have these experiences. And then, the thing that I'm most impressed by is this, despite all of his success so far, both in terms of history, academics, literature, as well as an entrepreneur, Ilya is very down to earth. So he's just a very, very down to earth, chill, nice person as well.
You heard it here first. It is possible to author the most significant paper of the last 10 years and also be a good human being.
Yeah.
Okay. So where do you see this work evolving, both inside and outside of your company over the next year?
There's a lot of interesting questions buried in your question. We could take it in a number of different directions, right? What's interesting to me is really being able to see where the progress of, call it like open source AI and closed source AI over time, right? One debate we were just having in our team was that, what is the state of the art frontier models going to look like between open source and closed source companies? I'm actually really curious to get your take on this, right?
I mean, I've been playing a little bit with the R-key models that came out today, as well as the new DeepSeek. And it sure smells just like, the products that I'm using from OpenAI or Anthropic. The gap is very, very small for the kind of applications that I use these models for.
So my opinion on that changes every week depending on what model is just released, right? So yeah. I'm very impressed with DeepSeek, obviously. And then Gemini Pro 3 was fantastic.
Yes.
Right. So it pushed the bar on closed source models a bit more for me. But it just changes week to week depending on actually what happens and what models have been released. I kind of think that long term, they will equilibrate as you have people from closed source companies contribute knowledge and techniques to the open source community and vice versa.
Yep.
And long term, you're going to have more smart people outside of your company than inside your company.
For sure.
Right. So I got to believe that open source will have an advantage there long term. But it definitely seems like it changes week to week, month to month, depending on what models have been released.
Absolutely. And I don't think that the open ecosystem is slowing down at all. As I see the Chinese frontier labs start to look at public offerings, that means a lot more capital, which means a lot more compute. I just see this ball rolling down the hill for the next year. I can't imagine that it's going to stop.
I think that is very exciting as a company, as a team building on top of open source models.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, you guys are teasing a little reveal. What can you tell us about what you are going to be announcing tomorrow at NeurIPS?
I don't want to have our team get mad at me too much, but what I will say is we're very excited that in the next day or so, we have some exciting announcements around both consumer as well as like business-facing products as well as developer-facing products across, call it like private chat type products as well as confidential inference API type products as well.
Okay. And where can we find you online?
You can find more about NeurAI at neur.ai. Then I am on Twitter at handle George, George, XZENG.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.